is our finance guy, guru extraordinaire. Rob, I know you know a lot about a lot of things, but what do you think needs to come out right now? What do people need to know about that's happening in the world as we speak? Because I was talking about revolution. There's definitely a financial revolution happening, right?
Absolutely, Todd. And I would take it even a miles higher.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a revolution in finance, it's a revolution in faith, and it's a revolution in fundamentals. And what I mean by that is, we're seeing 70 and 80% growth rates in a brand new digital architecture, and money is power. And the love of money is the root of all evil. And if you can get rid of the evil hands that have all the power and return it back to we the people, that's pretty revolutionary, right?
Isn't that what's happening, Rob? Because I get a lot of people saying, well, that they're buying all the ETFs for, crypto and all, and BlackRock's going to control it and everything. I mean, tell us why the people are getting back their power.
Well, because there's two fundamental requirements, Todd. It's called transparency and accountability. 100% transparency and 100% accountability are required for algorithms like cryptocurrencies or digital ledger technology or stable coins or RLUSDs. For trade to happen in an open and honest, trustless manner between China and India, or India and Turkey, or Turkey and Saudi Arabia, or Saudi Arabia and America, it has to be based on trustlessness. Okay, so there are no Wizard of Oz behind the curtain secret deals. There's no ability to pervert and inflate and steal and extract and create secret ledgers when 55,000 NGOs get funded, and it takes Doge to come in and figure out where all this secret magic money is being spread all over the world and creating chaos. Okay, at the end of the day, the new digital architectures and the new transparency and the new accountability means everybody gets to see everything. Hands up. So 8 billion people outnumber, 1 million assholes.
Yeah.
Okay. 8 billion people are going to have AI too. 8 billion people can go in and query ChatGPT. We, the people, are the government. And if we, the people, have 100% transparency, and we can track and trace, and we can keep our betters under a watchful eye that we can see, we outnumber them, Todd.
Obviously that's correct. What about people or companies like Palantir? I mean, because there's a big scare now. They're growing. I mean, their revenue is through the roof. I think they're just the profitability is amazing from corporate and government work, and obviously they're getting a lot of dark government work. But how does what you're talking about, I guess, correlate with that entity itself?
Well, bottom line, Todd, is going to have to all come down to law. Who has the law? What is law? Who can do what and who can't do what? Who can violate your unalienable rights and my unalienable rights? And who governs Palantir? That's the ultimate question. Are they right now rogue and doing whatever the damn hell they want to do? Are they being monitored by the Space Force and the Department of Defense and National Intelligence? Are they out there able to just make things up and do whatever they want to anybody because they're God in and unto themselves? Or is there maybe somebody else is there a plan? Is there more surveillance? Is there more intelligence? Have they been, did they used to be bad? Now they're, went from black hat to gray hat. Are they co-opted? Are they doing things that haven't been disclosed to us? I don't know. I'm not at the table. But to me, the way in which things are falling apart for the deep state and seemingly coming into better focus for we the people, it's either 10,000 coincidences or there's a plan in place, right? Yeah. And to have these rogue, Klaus Schwab's not doing whatever the hell he wants to do anymore. George Soros isn't doing whatever the hell he wants to do anymore. Jerome Powell is being let out to dry and hung out in the spotlight. So
it's fun to watch, isn't it?
It's fun to watch. So why would we think, oh, well, we caught some of them, but Palantir is doing just whatever the hell it wants to do?
That's a good point.
Doesn't make any sense.
So make people feel good about the CBDC stuff. There's so much coming at me. I haven't had the chance to dig into it. What do you think?
Make people feel good about it. What again? I'm sorry.
The CDBC. I mean, the new law is coming online.
Okay. Well, it's an anti-CBDC surveillance act. Trump has
Hmm.
always said he did an executive order and they're going to codify the executive order into law. Todd, if we don't have central banks, you can't have a central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
If we have a treasury, you can have a treasury issued digital dollar, but you cannot have a Rothschild fractional reserve lending central bank digital currency weaponized against us with social credit scores and energy grids and CSG data points and locking us down like Canadian truckers.
Yeah.
Because now, if you do that, you're violating the unalienable rights of a constitutional republic. You don't have law, you have a dictatorship. So the point of this whole exercise, Todd, is to get rid of the Rothschild Federal Reserve central banking empire that became the world reserve currency and let every nation take back control of their domestic budgets, money supply, spending, priorities, elections. Let everybody from the bottom up govern at the family level, the county level, the state level, the national level, instead of this super imposition on the top down. We're just a bunch of sheep in a matrix. We'll shut up and live in 15-minute cities and eat bugs. That's what's coming down, Todd.
I hear you. So I guess there's a lot of people who are uh, uninformed, skeptical. Um, how do they thread that needle? The guy on the street. How do you ensure that to take advantage of what this revolution can bring you financially and freedom wise and all of that? Because I hate getting charged $40 if I overdraft, or I hate having my card declined at the dinner with a client because I used it 3 times this morning, so now the fourth time they shut it off. I mean, that's a great thing to get away from that, but how do we thread that needle so that people are take advantage of the good stuff, but prevent some of the surveillance and control?
Well, it's a great question, Todd. And what
Mm.
you're asking is, we've been in this system since we were all born,
Yeah,
trust,
sure.
trust in tradition and religion. And we just accept what we accept. And,
Hmm.
it's hard to imagine a world that we've never lived in before, even though we've gone through the last 10 years of the greatest amount of chaos we've probably ever seen.
Yeah,
Right. And so, why are we having this chaos? Who is rebelling against we the people? Whose head is spitting fire and neck turning around and green vomit coming out? Is it the people or is it the deep state? Is it the deep state trying to maintain its monopoly, and they'll kill and destroy and divide anybody or anything? They'll even blow the joint up if they need to, but by God, they want to keep their monopoly. So, who are they trying to keep their monopoly from? Who's trying to overflip the money changers table?
yeah,
In our era, in our lifetime right now, who is challenging the matrix? Well, there's a disrupting agent that's been hated 24/7, 365 since 2015. There's a force that's saying we are returning the power to we, the people. And power is money. Money and power equal control. If the money system and the power and the energy is coming back to us as unalienable sovereign entities, well, then it doesn't get to be hoarded by the Rothschilds. We don't owe them $37 trillion. We don't have to pay. They don't get a lien on our life, our labor, our creativity, our patents, our family, our land, our gifting, our estate when we die. Anything that moves, the beast system taxes. That's not the way this nation was set up.
yeah,
So if we're undoing the trap that they've put us in, follow the money to understand why we have open borders and tornadoes out of nowhere and
hmm,
poisons being unleashed around the world and chaos and wokeism and wars and famine and trafficking all over hell's half acre. Why are the Democrats fleeing Texas and going to Illinois, and now they're under subpoena to be arrested because of dereliction of duty, and they're leaving people that need aid from the tornadoes where all those terrible deaths took place, and these folks don't want to vote on anything, so they leave the state? I
yeah.
mean,
No, that's
it,
unacceptable. Obviously,
it's
yeah,
insane. But so the power shift is coming back to we the people, Todd, and I understand we've never experienced anything like this in our entire lives. So we're all having to figure out not where is the hockey puck today, but where's the hockey puck going?
Well, that's the question. And when you combine that with other concerns about like real ID and surveillance and, credit score and all that, I mean, that's what people are concerned about, that all of this will be connected at one point, right?
Todd, I want to show you real quick. I am reading through this 168-page document.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This includes all of the new taxonomy, the regulations, the requirements, the do's and the don'ts, what can happen with this new digital architecture, this monetary system that cuts out all the fat and the friction and the bloat and the banker fees and the regulatory grift and everything that takes place in this. I mean, think about it. The world's moving from a Blockbuster era to a Netflix era. We're going from things where you can move any amount of money around the world in 3 seconds, 24/7, 365 for less than a penny, instead of $100 or $1,000 or 7 days and for a private for-profit entity was making all of this money every time money moved, instead of now open source, publicly available software, sovereign digital rails where money moves around point to point, person to person for less than a penny all over the world. That's not going to make Jamie Dimon and the boys at JP Morgan very happy.
Well, that's a good point, because I was just in Armenia, and then the USAID office was next to where I was staying, but it was closed. I mean, it was gone. They said, yep, they closed up and left. And obviously some of it's moved to the State Department, to the embassy or whatever, but they took away the money, and you saw, just look at PBS, I mean, all of it just gone. I mean, people are out the door, their boxes of pictures from their desk. I mean, so that is a thing, right? I mean, so if you can cut off the money flow, so is the money flow, I mean, you're right. The JP Morgan is not going to want to stop that, right?
Well, think about it, Todd. First of all, it's funny money. It's not really it's a debt. It's an IOU. It's not really money. There's no accountability to how much of it they print. There's no accountability to how much they print and give to the CIA. There's no accountability of how much the CIA gives to 55,000 NGOs. And there's no accountability to where what those NGOs do with it to disrupt, divide, devour, destroy everything in our world, to keep the divide and conquer model needs us fighting each other, sick, weak, scared, so they can control us and they can own everything and have us live in a constant state of poverty, scarcity, fear, and sickness and war. What happens when that operational clarity that operational dysfunction ends with perfect clarity? How do they keep that magician trick going if we can see you can't just print money out of thin air? You can't do fractional reserve lending. You can't tax us at 50%. You can't create and generate wars because it's the best profit-making endeavor that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you fund NATO? How do you fund the WEF? How do you fund the United Nations? How do you fund all of these entities that are here to help us? But unless the world's in chaos, they're not maximizing the P&L for their shareholders. So we can't have peace. It's kind of like health. We can't have a bunch of healthy people because that's not profitable for the pharmaceutical industry. You can't have a bunch of peacetime all over the world, because what's Raytheon going to do with that? Right? You can't have a bunch of peacetime because the bankers can't issue $17 trillion in new debt for 30 years and collect interest on it. Can't have that.
Well, Rob, you've been early on all of this, and you've been consistent, and you've been right so far on, a lot of the things you've talked about have come true. I guess people are questioning, well, is it all going to happen? And what I say is, you just got to be involved on the ground locally, right? And you can't sit back and say, well, I hope this happens. You got to be part of making it happen. Am I right about that?
You're 1,000% correct, Todd. And that there's a perfect segue. Could you share my screen and pull this thing up? I just want to show people what I think is really critically important for all of us to know, because, we are in essence co-creators in a creative world, right? And so if we're co-create, I don't know if I can make this bigger so you can kind of see this.
Yeah, let me see if I can make that
Make sure the audience can see it. There we go.
big.
Look, every single one of us want to be successful. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Success is 100% predictable. It's baked into our DNA. Failure is predictable too. But the bottom line, the end of the day, law is the single most powerful thing on earth. And we're designed to be successful. You know, it's good for the brand. It's good for the brand designer. It's good for the brand creator. Our success is good, you know, for why we're here in the first place. But here's the thing. If we don't know what the laws are, my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. If we don't understand what law is, and I'm not talking about the justice system law. I'm not talking about man's law. I'm not talking about the British accreditation registry, the things that man makes up and just imagines and puts on paper. That's not the law we're talking about here. The most important knowledge on earth is law. Who are we? Whose are we? What are those immutable, indestructible, timeless powers built into the DNA of this creation? Okay. If we know that, then, you know, laws are necessary in this design. Laws are necessary to our life. Law is the key to success, and we all have it in us, just like an acorn has an oak tree in it. It's already there. The acorn is there and the oak tree is there. It's the laws of water and sun and all that sort of things that make it happen. Our lack of knowledge is not God's fault. He isn't holding anything out on us. But you have to ask yourself, who are the profiteers for us to remain ignorant, sick, weak, and scared? Who benefits from us being dependent, lazy, entertaining ourselves to death, and unaware of what's happening behind the curtain with no transparency and no accountability? If we are destroyed by lack of knowledge, but once we get the knowledge, then we have to take action and be involved in everything. We have to be involved locally.
Well, we're getting some comments here. Let me
Sure.
Joe Reel says, I voiced the law and I was jailed. I think there's a lot of it's going to take courage, right? It's going to take a lot of people to get up and next man up, as they say. You know, I mean,
nobody guarantees us that evil's not going to slap back.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. You fear not unless somebody's going to say something bad, or unless somebody's going to call me a name, or unless somebody might sue me. Well, of course people are going to do those sort of. Do you think the disciples or anything in the law book that people didn't have consequences for speaking the truth? Nowhere in law does it say, oh, and if you speak the law, you get a pass. No, it doesn't work that way.
You know, I was talking to a Christian priest in Armenia, an Orthodox priest at the Apostolic Church last week, and he said to me, you know what, think of it, we're in exile. I mean, and we're challenged, and we have to rise to meet the challenge. And that is, I took that to heart. I found that very wise.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Because this is not the end. This is a challenge. What do you think about that?
Todd, you have to have the knowledge, and then the real knowledge of the law. Then you have to have an understanding of what that means inside the matrix. We are living in a matrix of deceit and deception. This is a world constructed by man's rules. And then there's God's laws. Okay. So if you have the understanding of God's laws and the understanding of how you know your enemy, and you know that your enemy is going to piss fire and vinegar and scream and yell at the truth, it's almost like a vampire doesn't want to see the daylight, and the sunlight comes out, they scream, and they can't stand it, right? So liars and deception and evil does not like light and truth and law. Okay. And so then the divine wisdom comes from not just knowing what's true, but understanding the forces at play in the world, and then having the wisdom to take action in spite of who your enemy is or what the how the system is rigged. Just because the system's rigged doesn't mean that, oh, well, my neighbor's an asshole, so I don't have to love my neighbor.
Well, it's also a numbers game, right? The more people that show courage and stand up, the bigger the chance of success and getting to the point that we all want to get to, is to understand, as you say, what's going on around us. And that's what we're about at this show, is to help people to understand, so they'll be the smartest in the room so they can make those right decisions. But I don't have you for much longer. I want to just shift a bit to some of the finance stuff.
Sure.
What's going on with the Federal Reserve? What do you see happening? Is it going to be transformed? I mean,
it's going to be shut down. It's going to be ended as far as its functionality that we've known it our whole lives. And this is an awakening process.
Mm-hmm.
This is a capacity to understand process. You got to slowly tease this out. The kind of the idea of, you can't just tell the people it's bad. You got to show them. You got to show Powell's contempt and disrespect for the economy, for the president. For the president says, let's lower rates, and Powell flexes and says, hey, I'm above you. In the corporate structure, the way this world has been set up, America's a corporation. I'm the banker's president of the corporation that owns this United States of America, Inc. And you can't tell me you can't fire me because I'm above you. Well, that's going to come to a shock to most people. Most people have no idea. Still, we say this all the time, Todd, but the Federal Reserve ain't federal, and there ain't no reserves.
Yeah.
And so
it's
if we've got
your money,
if we have a Jerome Powell, who's the president of a fraudulent NGO, flipping off the president of the United States, don't you think that should start to wake people up?
Yeah, you would think.
You would think it would start to go, well, wait a minute. Why do we even need a Federal Reserve if we have a Treasury? What the hell is a Treasury for? Or what? Why do we need two banks? Why are they doing this kabuki theater thing? And yet everybody has to kiss the ring to this NGO operator that we apparently has helped us owe $37 trillion to the NGO.
And a point that most people don't understand, but even my kids understand it. They're like, Dad, if they don't have the money, they can't fight the wars.
Correct.
And I'm like, wow,
ding, 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 ding.
So yeah, once you get rid of that ability to just print and go attack, whatever, then that all changes.
And here's another impossible to answer question. If all they do is generate Federal Reserve notes, which are a debt instrument, and they give us debt instruments to go do our work, and then they take our debt instruments from us in taxes, how do you pay off $37 trillion of debt with debt that they steal from tax from us? You cannot pay off debt with debt. That's finance accounting 101. They can't just keep printing more money to make us go work in the treadmill 5 days a week and 70-hour work weeks and shrink our value down, and then somehow magically have debt erase debt. That doesn't even
inflate it away at the same time, so your purchasing power goes down.
The whole thing is mythology. The whole thing is mythology. And the guy that's bringing down the mythology in the Matrix is the man that's been in bankruptcy and business and the art of the deal and television and politics and, you name it, the world over. And there's your reason, core reason number one, and the last reason they hate this man and his supporters, because the folks that own the megaphones, the four major entities that own all of the broadcast media, have told to character assassinate that man and his followers because he's threatening their empire.
That is obviously what's going on. What do you think about this grand jury they're impaneling with Pam Bondi and the Russiagate stuff?
Well, I think that's probably one of the two last most difficult things that people are going to have to process, is that the magic politician we were told was the savior of the planet Earth was actually an agent of the entity that wanted to level the playing field. But they wanted to level the playing field by cutting America's head off and bring America down to the level of serf of everybody else, instead of all the other nations coming up to a Declaration of Independence and abundance and life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and property rights. And they don't want the world coming up where all the nations operate with the fundamental principles of our Declaration of Independence. They want to take America's head off, silence us, shut us up, shrink our population. So it's a lot easier for the matrix to be controlled with all of the systems that they put in place, rather than all of the other nations coming up with peace and prosperity and abundance and sovereignty.
Yeah.
So what most people are going to have a very hard time coming to grips with was Obama was a deep state manufactured assassin to bring America down.
And everybody around him then that was his third term we just saw under Biden.
Everybody,
he was still there. What about the tariffs? How's that going in your mind? You're a finance guy. What do you think?
They're brilliant. They're amazing. We've had a 16% increase, in tariffs that came in last. It's one of, if you want to have your mind blown, go and find a clip that came out from CNN yesterday, and it almost acted like they've been Trump supporters for 50 years talking about no inflation, trade deficits, and tariff impact around the world, how good it is happening. We are almost at this point right now where we're going to trigger, and it's probably going to happen this month, Todd, where anyone making under $125,000 will never pay another penny in taxes. That's how much volume and revenue is coming in, and it's not creating inflation. We're getting new revenues. We're lowering the deficit. We are about to whack taxes, and it's not going to weaken our economy at all. So if you want to hate Trump, go ahead and keep hating Trump, but do it with more money in your pocket.
Sounds great. Trade deals. I'm just going down the list here of what I wrote down. I want to get your opinion on. India's squawking. EU is grudgingly gone along because they just got hammered by the art of the deal, power play. What else do you see happening on the trade front?
Well, it's hard. I mean, the trade front, basically you're having a bunch of people that have gotten a one-way ticket to paradise. They've gotten all the great deals. They've got to dump all their stuff on America, and they tariff us to death. And we get no tariffs when they dump all their stuff into America. And it's like they haven't been in the gym, for 35 years. And now they're having to work out again. Now they have to pay tariffs, and it's going to be reciprocal. If you want to charge us 15, we'll charge you 15. You've been charging us 35, and we've been getting 2 from you. I mean, who negotiated these deals?
Yeah.
Why do these deals even have to be cleaned up right now? Let's go back and look at the last 40 years and go, if this is what you call successful negotiations, I mean, how did we let this happen to us?
It was all a plan to, as you say, cut the head off America, essentially. I mean, it worked. It worked very well for a while.
It did.
What about the jobs numbers? What do you think?
Jobs numbers are going to be unbelievable. First of all, there was a lot of cooking of the numbers for sure. They had to adjust.
We've been saying that for years.
Right. They've been everything's a magic trick in the matrix. Everything is about image, perception, emotions, emotional management, keeping the lie and the tap dance going. It's all about funny money numbers and statistics and reports and, who's the top song on the Billboard Top 100. It's all just kabuki theater. But at the end of the day, Todd, the amount of trillions of dollars that are coming onshore into America, the manufacturing commitments, the factory commitments, the jobs that are going to come. Texas is down 50,000 short electrical workers just to be able to put power centers up for AI, to create new data centers. I mean, the trades jobs are going to explode. Okay. The cost of living is going to, I'll give you an example, Todd. Here's one thing that people need to understand. During COVID, Blackstone came around and the hedge funds went out and bought every single family home they possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That drove the price up about, on average, across the nation, 37% for single family homes across the country on average. There's a law that's being passed right now that's going to make hedge funds get rid of individual single family properties.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, they have Blackstone. You remember last week we had the little incident where the guy went in the 33rd floor in New York City and killed the chief executive of Blackstone.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that? So all kinds of stuff.
You know who else? I got sent something else. Somebody else. There was another company in that building owned by Kissinger, and the people that were associated with that company were like John Brennan. Go down the list. So there was that whole thing is a little weird
A
still.
lot of deep state stuff going on there. A lot
Yeah.
of deep state stuff.
Yeah.
But so let's combine. What if single family homes drop back down to 37% or 40%, and interest rates went from 4.5% to 1%, like Trump wants to cut them down by 3%?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the affordability of a single family home if the two biggest expenses in a person's life is the purchase of a home, and the second one is the financing of that home?
Yeah.
Most people can't pay cash for a house, so you buy the house and then you have to spend 30 years paying your house off, right? So what if the house price comes down 37-40% and the mortgage comes down 75%?
Yeah.
What does that do to affordability for folks that are struggling just to eat, this month? So
obviously a huge impact, along with all the other ancillary business that goes along with that. It looks like Trump is using this period of talking about getting rid of Powell, maybe just to expose him, and then he's going to let it run out for 8 months and just bang on him for 8 months so that everybody sees actually what's going on.
Well, I think somewhere or the other, Todd, all of this illegitimate debt, the old axiom that fraud vitiates everything. Well, if the Federal Reserve's a fraud and the debt's a fraud and the income tax is a fraud and the IRS is a fraud, you've got the Chevron doctrine that talks about how Congress can't outsource all of these laws into all these regulatory bodies. Why should Congress be able to outsource rules to the IRS that's domiciled in Puerto Rico as an NGO?
Yeah.
At what point does the Chevron doctrine apply to the IRS? At what point do we stop this kabuki theater? Why are we going to have a divided world where if you make less than 125, you don't have to pay any taxes, but anything above that you do? That would be a perverse, kind of a reverse incentive, right? It'd make people say, well, I'm going to get underneath 125 and just cruise.
Yeah.
That's not productive. That would be counterintuitive, but it would cause people to, go up to a certain level and then not have to pay. It's not gonna be that way. It's going to be we're going to go back to a time when the tariffs funded everything pre-1913, and they had to have special committees to figure out how to give away all the extra wealth that we had because they didn't know how to spend it all. So that's where we're headed. We're headed to a tariff world where folks that want access to the most powerful market, the strongest consumer market in the world, they get to pay to sell to us instead of us having to pay taxes to buy their stuff.
It doesn't work anyway. It's cheap garbage. A lot of it anyway. What else, Rob? I'm through my list here. What else do you want to get out right now?
Well, I want everyone to understand, the end of the fiscal year 2025 ends, in about 55 days on September 30th. So fiscal year 2026, the official, if you will, kickoff to the America's 250th anniversary starts on October 1. And that's a new fiscal year. That's a new budget. Those are new laws. Before the congressional recess happens in August, there's going to be digital asset legislation, market structure legislation, stablecoin legislation, anti-CBDC legislation. New tariff deals are going to come in. I believe a case that is revolutionary to the world is the SEC and Ripple are going to both simultaneously drop their cases. It is going to end that, and it's going to allow 100% green light adoption of distributed ledger technology among the Fortune 1000 companies in America. And as America goes, so goes the rest of the world.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that all those rails were set up under the first Trump administration. It's why when you move money between banks, it happens instantaneously now instead of like 4 days.
Correct.
Right. So,
Correct.
I mean, this has been going on for some time to build all this.
And level playing field doesn't mean just level inside the United States. It means level in every nation on earth. Okay. And the fact of the matter that there's an argument out there, Todd, that one of the reasons the SEC lawsuit was triggered was to insulate the RippleNet and the Ripple network and the distributed ledger technology from Biden, the auto pen presidency, trying to put a CBDC in place.
Yeah.
They had to almost protect it in the incumbency of a lawsuit with everybody's eyes on every dot and comma and period and crossing of every T. Everything that ever happened had to happen in broad daylight where everybody was looking. And then when Trump got back in, he could do what he needed to do to make sure there's no such thing as a central bank digital currency.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Rob.